I'm going to go over where everything is. These are all the files. This is taskbar show.exe because to reshow, it's failsafe to reshow the taskbar. This is a listener app that's run in the background. Again, another failsafe to make sure that the taskbar reshows. You've got launcher DLL, which I have to give you in another project. Before opening the project, we're going to go into how RPG Maker runs. Here's RPG Maker. These are the scripts I'm using. These are all off the internet. Now, the first thing I needed when I opened up RPG Maker was a good full screen script. This is full screen in RPG Maker. The problem with the full screen alone is that you don't have a mouse cursor script because I want to make like an adventure game. You first install the full screen plus. If I just load it right now with the mouse cursor script, this is the full screen. As you can see, it has a problem where it goes off the screen. To fix that was a cursor lock. That's the very first thing that I had used. Where is it? The cursor lock is this code right here. Now I went over and I painstakingly measured each one of these resolutions. It's finally loaded. It's going to lock the cursor based on what resolution it is. This is where it starts up here, the function, and here's the it first gets the desktop resolution, stores into res W and H, and it sets RCTA over here. These are just error codes, and under clip cursor here, that's where it sets it and then goes to return 0. It's going to set that cursor lock down right here. This is inside of the main game loop from here to here. It says if it's a full screen, cursor lock is true, and then run the function. So that's the first thing I needed. That's why I was trying to change the desktop resolution, and instead what I did is just measured each resolution and then just used a cursor lock. RPG Maker has fast full screen. For the next problem to fix in RPG Maker, and that is that it can load OGV movies only, and the size has to be 577 by 416, some ridiculous low resolution. So what I did to counter that is I have this DLL file, new test DLL1. So I'm going to open the new test DLL project. There's unnecessary code up here. Define DLL export, because this is a DLL file. And then I'm not sure why you have to include this, but it's extern CDL export. You know why I don't. So these are the two. Pause RPG Maker is old and has to be taken out. So here's the play movie script. Now what happens is RPG Maker sends this command line. Okay, well, let's start at the beginning. This guy's clicked, right? It says action key down here. So when you go up to him, hit the action button, it says, hello there, this is a movie. And then under scripts, you run the class at playmoviestart equals playmoviestart.new, and then the file name that it passes, kai.mp4. And now from Ruby, this is print file name. That doesn't matter. It's just for debugging. Directory equals VLC, VLC.exe, movie. So it's starting to build the directory. You want to take the directory, the command line, and you want to combine it with the file name. Final command line equals directory plus file name plus command line. These are the command lines. iDummy, which runs it, iDummy and iDummy quiet, which runs it, this runs it as a console without the window. And this gets rid of the console. So now it's just running with the window. No overlay takes out, I think that takes out overlay. I think that was experimental. Full screen, because it's going to be running in full screen. No video title, no keyboard events, no mouse events. Mouse hide timeout equals 0, no skins, which is different. I don't think that has to be in there. Video always on top, video on top. Video titles RPG Maker M Player. I use this with find window to find in C++ to find the window. Not windows.h, but here's the DLL. This is how you do the DLL. DLL, play movie, and it passes one function, a char pointer. So play movie.call, final command line. This here is useless. That doesn't even have to be there really. That's going to pass it over to this here. This is the play movie function, which the file name is passed here. First, we want to find the launcher. The DLL is assuming that the launcher exists. This will copy the file path string to the clipboard. So it runs the post message command and uses wmuser and wparam equals 1. It waits 1,000, which is just, it's my way of kind of loading. Now in the launcher, peak message, inside of a while loop here, you've got peak message constantly running. I use peak message in a while loop so I can run this and constantly check whether the RPG Maker window is open. The RPG Maker DLL just sent a message called wmuser, let's assume, keyboard proc, here it is. So this is where for our wmuser, and if the wparam equals 1, we know that play movie has been called. Load clipboard data, and I've done it from a function that is up here. Load clipboard. So that opens the clipboard, gets the clipboard data, closes the clipboard, and returns. So back at wmuser, we now play our movie with the clipboard data. So that's going to play movie, which will bring us to our play movie command. Now, before we get started with the play movie command, game full screen will usually equal true, but I thought that I could finish it really quickly if I just copied and pasted for the full screen and then just copy and pasted it for the window and worked on them separately, you know, with this copied data. Anyway, this is for full screen, so this is what we'll be using. But I use window mode for testing. So actually you should probably use windowed mode for testing. So let's get into what happens. First, we get our strings. We're going to need a couple strings. Final path, that is what we're looking for. When the path is posted, it's going to look something like, this is just an example, but it's going to look something like this. It's going to say everything from this position +1, where we find this, +1 to the end of it, which is chi.mb4, gets stored into movie name. So movie name, string, and substring. We find this +1, that's the first position, to the end of it. And that's just gonna get the movie, just the movie name. Movie file path string. We've got this stored into a file. Now it's going to erase that. So this is our second command that we need, and this is what we run as a command line parameter in VLC in create process. So movie file string path equals movie path.erase. Find this to the end of it. I should really just take out the +1, right? The next thing it does is it constructs an info file path. This is going to create a file in the launcher called mplayer movieinfo.bat. That's a batch file. It's run very quickly, and this is what the batch file has in it. This is loading ffprobe. What it's doing is it's using ffprobe.exe to go into the movies folder and print an INI file with. So then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get the duration, and this duration right here. First, the launcher is going to create this. If this doesn't exist, if this doesn't exist, it's going to create that file. First, it creates the whole command, opens the mplayer movie and writes into it our final path that we had. So it's going to print this into mplayer movie info .bat. And for good measure, I waited 150 and 150 after it. Then, after the batch file's created here, where this creates it, writes into that, it's going to execute that batch file. This gets the duration from that file. This string pieces together the movie info name, and then we can put that into here. The INI file to create is the relative folder movies, and then the INI movie name plus INI. This is going to be movie name.mp4.ini. So the next thing we have here is this is just my way of truncating it from a decimal. So instead of something like this, it's gonna look instead like this, which is the number of milliseconds. So let's create the VLC process. This is our movie file path string that we had earlier and stored into movie file path string. We call it C string. Window mode, this part doesn't work right now. Play movie for loop. So this says for integer n equals movie duration in n is greater than 0, n minus. Down here it's going to wait 1 millisecond every frame, so it creates basically frames here. And then it says switch to this window constantly. You need to constantly, because it's an external process, the RPG movie player has to constantly be switched to. It locks your cursor. I know that's a dangerous thing to do, but it permanently locks your cursor, because if you're moving the mouse around, it's going to botch it and it's going to go off screen. So constantly do that. If full screen is true, cursor lock. Again, if you're in full screen, somebody's going to move the mouse around and it screws it up. Sure, this doesn't work right now. Then it's going to peek message inside of the for loop. This is for skipping movies. So we can use the low-level keyboard process function, and then we can press the escape key here, and it's going to go to the low-level keyboard process, and it's going to, do that. Movie is playing is equivalent false, then n equals -1. So it's counting down n, and it's waiting. It's going to count down n until n is at 0, and initially equals movie duration. So say it was like, your movie duration was like 19,000, which is 19 seconds. All right, here we go. So then it immediately sets the movie to not playing, sets the cursor position to center, sets the lock cursor script again, make sure the cursor does not show. For some reason it showed. Find the windows and switch to the RPG Maker window, and then return true. I'm going to test this out, and I'm going to show you how it works. He's clickable with the action button, the action button down here. So when you click on him, he's going to say, hello there, there's a movie about to start, and we're going to load kai.mp4. So we're going to be able to walk this character around, go up to him, click him, and then it's going to run that Ruby script. The Ruby script is going to be passed to play movie here, is going to be passed to playmovie.call final command, is going to go to the DLL file, copy it to the clipboard, post a signal via post message to our launcher. Our launcher is listening constantly. We'll hear the message, get the data from the clipboard, assume that it's the full file path, get the duration of the movie, play the VLC movie player, and go within this for loop over and over and over while the VLC movie is playing, and then it goes to movie playing is false, and from there everything goes back to normal. Let me show you how it works. So I'm going to hit local debugger, the video. As you can see, the cursor lock is working. We can go up to the guy, click on him. Hello, there's a movie about to play. Click, it waits a second. So, as you can see, working. It's full screen, it's 4:3 aspect ratio. It's within the bounding box, just like RPG Maker. And I do it, as you see, no problems here. See, comes up, press the escape key, skips it. Perfect. Now I'm going to show you the bug I was having on another computer and why I like to embed the video instead. So on this computer, when I run the launcher, the problem I'm having is that everything works fine. I'm using the keyboard for input, not the mouse in this particular one because I played around with the script. And when I press enter on the, sorry about that, my video went off. But as I go and press enter on the guide, it says movie will now play. When it plays the movie, what you're going to see, a window opens on this computer for whatever reason. When VLC opens, it has to do that window thing. I have no clue why it's doing that. Next problem I was having that I fixed was over under show back under the full screen plus. I think it was show back has to be put under update. I have no clue why that has to be put there. I assume that it doesn't redraw the window so it ends up white for some reason after VLC movie player stops playing. So again, I wouldn't even need to embed live VLC if I could just get this window to stop doing it, because it, as you see, it works pretty much perfectly on this computer except for that window problem up there. My other laptop works